Okay, we'll go ahead and start the meeting. It is 6 o'clock. For the record, Mayor Frederick is out of town this evening. And would you do the roll?
Deputy Mayor Winkler.
Present.
Councilmember Ballard.
Here.
Councilmember Elliott. Here. Councilmember Bassat is on her way. Councilmember Walton.
Yes, here.
Councilmember Gassick.
Here.
And Councilmember Wargo.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And Mr. Carr, I think you're going to cover a quick update about Zoom this evening.
Yeah, so unfortunately, according to our clerk's office, the Zoom remote meeting function is not working tonight. We cannot get it to work. We're not sure what's going on. Our IT can't get to work. It's just non-functional. So just for the record, I'll just note that while this is a service we prefer to provide, the fact of the matter is, under the OPMA, we are not required to. It encourages you to provide remote access if feasible, but it's not something that we have to shut the meeting down for. It is open to the public. It has been properly posted. It is actually currently, you can view it on PCTV. So we just can't have anyone call in and give comment. You have to physically come down here, unfortunately. So that's where we're at, but we're not in violation of the OPMA, and you can proceed with your meeting. So.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're up to public comment. Excluding new business and any public hearing. We don't have a public hearing tonight, but we do have some new business. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the council on items other than new business. We have a special comment session before that agenda item, and we will ask that you keep any comments to that portion of the agenda. Please remember that you are addressing the council, not others in the council chamber. Remarks of a negative nature, singling out specific employees other than the mayor and the council are inappropriate. The council reserves the right to terminate presentations containing personal attacks on individuals. Now, as everyone just heard, unfortunately, Zoom is not working this evening. Please feel free, if you're in the audience and you had hoped to address by Zoom, please feel free to reach out to all the council members and the mayor by email to share any thoughts or concerns or recommendations that you may have. Is there anybody in the audience wishing to make public comment? All right, there's nobody in the audience wishing to make public comment. Are there any written comments?
Only the one written comment that I sent to you earlier from Miss Margaret Farnsworth.
Okay.
And that will be included in your packet.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we're up to approval of the agenda. A motion would be appropriate at this time to approve the agenda. Councilmember Ballard.
Move that we approve the agenda for the regular City Council meeting Tuesday, February 13, 2024.
Councilmember Elliott.
I second that.
There has been a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussions, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes 7-0. Now we're up to the appointments. Fellow council members, as you may recall, I presented the appointments at our last meeting. At this meeting, a motion would be appropriate to approve the appointments. Is there a motion to approve the appointments? Councilmember Gassick.
I move that we approve the 2024 DuPont liaison position appointments.
Thank you. Councilmember Ballard.
I second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the appointments of the council members. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Council members, just remember, 7-0. Sure. Yeah, sure. Thank you for keeping. I appreciate that. Okay. Remember that the council liaison positions start immediately. We've taken our vote. Please reach out to me personally if you've got any questions on your liaison roles. And try to at least once a quarter to update the council on your work in your respective liaison roles. All right, we are up to a proclamation. And a proclamation, February is Black History Month in the city of DuPont. Whereas during National Black History Month, we celebrate the legacy of Black Americans whose power to lead, to overcome, and to expand the meaning and practice of American democracy has helped our nation become a more fair and just society. This country was established upon the profound but simple idea that all people are created equal and should be treated equally throughout their lives. And whereas Black History Month grew out of the establishment in 1926 of Negro History Week by Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, and whereas each February, National Black History Month serves as both a celebration and a powerful reminder that Black history is American history. Black culture is American culture, and Black stories are essential to the ongoing story of America. Our thoughts, our struggles, our progress, and our aspirations. Shining a light on Black history today is as important to understanding ourselves and growing stronger as a nation as it has ever been. That is why it is essential that we take time to celebrate the immeasurable contributions of Black Americans, honor the legacies and achievements of generations past, reckon with centuries of injustice, and confront those injustices that still fester today. And whereas the city of DuPont continues to work toward becoming an inclusive community in which all citizens, past, present, and future, are respected and recognized for their contributions and potential contributions to our community, the state, the country, and the world. And whereas the city of DuPont is proud to honor the history and contributions of African Americans in our community throughout our state and nation. Now, therefore, in recognition of African Americans past and present in our community, I, Ronald J. Frederick, Mayor of the City of DuPont, do hereby proclaim February 2024 to be Black History Month, and I encourage all citizens to celebrate our diverse heritage and culture and continue our efforts to create a world that is more just, peaceful, and prosperous for all. All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, so we are now to approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Councilmember Ballard.
Yes, I move to approve the consent agenda items for Tuesday, February 13, 2024.
Thank you. Councilmember Gassick.
I second that motion.
There is a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye. 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 All opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes 7-0. We are now up to new business. This is a first reading of an ordinance amending the DuPont Municipal Code 9.12.020, prohibiting the use or discharge of fireworks within the city of DuPont. This is a first reading. Mr. Carr, could you take a moment to explain the proposed changes in the ordinance?
Certainly, Deputy Mayor. Council members, thank you for listening to me tonight. So, at a previous meeting, there was a workshop where we had a general discussion about the history of fireworks use in the city and what the law allowed and didn't allow, and it had been for several years now that fireworks, personal fireworks use was allowed within limited times on the 4th of July. And there was some robust discussion, and staff was given general consensus that revisiting this and perhaps prohibiting some or all personal use of fireworks would be appropriate. I was directed to draft this ordinance as a result. This ordinance, again, going back to your authority under state law and RCW, basically allows individual jurisdictions to allow people to use fireworks or to prohibit it partially or prohibit it entirely. And so this ordinances before you, removes the previous language and simply creates a ban on use within the jurisdiction outside of a public display, which is also provided for. I'll just note that as a matter of housekeeping, this ordinance also would eliminate section B, or excuse me, part B of that same section, and that was the language that said, yes, you can use fireworks, you just can't use it in public property. It would eliminate that because it would no longer be relevant, so there's no point in retaining it. I was contacted by our Parks Director, Amy Walker, and she wanted to relay to the council that the golf course has relayed to her that they are willing to continue to have our public displays for as long as we need to. I'm only mentioning this because I do not follow the public comment traffic, but I know there's been some concern over where we would have a public display. So she asked me to just convey to you that to alleviate that concern. The golf course is still a good partner to us in that matter. And I just put that out there for the record. And beyond that, it's very straightforward. This is a change to your ordinance. I'll remind you all that this does not take effect under state statute for a full calendar year. So anytime prior to July 4th of this year that you pass this ordinance, it won't take effect until the next calendar year. So whatever you decide to do, and this is for the public as well, to the extent they can hear me right now, this would not ban fireworks, private fireworks use for this coming 4th of July. That is outside of your authority. So, and that's really all there is to it. It's very straightforward, but I know that there's been a long history of this in the city, and this is going to be a pretty big change for people. So just to be clear, once again, this would be banning all use of fireworks, but not necessarily possession or sale, although I don't know why anyone would come and sell them, but staff was of the opinion that banning possession was effectively unenforceable and maybe not reasonable, given someone might want to buy some and use them somewhere else. And I'm not even sure how you'd go about actually enforcing that law. I would defer to the police department, but as a former prosecutor, that could be very difficult to try to figure out how to do that. But nonetheless, that's why it's written the way it is. So.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. All right, with that in mind, we'll first open it up for public comment. And then after the public comment, there will be an opportunity for for the council individually to ask clarifying questions. In reference to, I'm going to use the term debating the ordinance, that happens after there's a motion on the table, which would be at the second reading, okay? But if you have some clarifying questions that you have for Mr. Carr or the staff, this would be the appropriate after we have public comment. As shared earlier, you're addressing the council, not others in the council chamber. We do welcome and appreciate public comment. Please remember, though, to avoid personal attacks on individuals. Unfortunately, as shared twice now, Zoom is not working. So please feel free to email the council and the mayor with any comments that you have on this ordinance so that we have your input. We really appreciate your input. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to make a public comment? I don't see anybody in the audience wishing to make public comment. Go ahead.
I have no written comments either.
There are no written comments. So the public comment session is closed. I am going to now turn to council members to see if they've got any clarifying questions. Councilmember Wargo.
Yes, Mr. Carr. So just so I'm clear, if I wanted to make an amendment as written on this current resolution, is it correct that I would be able to do that at the next meeting, at the second reading?
Yes, the appropriate time to introduce an amendment to an ordinance would be after the second reading, or excuse me, at the time of the second reading.
Okay. Councilmember Ballard.
Thank you. Will permits be required this year at no cost to the residents of DuPont in order to discharge personal displays of fireworks?
Yes, excellent question. So we, and if I get this wrong, I'll defer to our land use expert, to our director of planning, but I have been in touch with Ray, our building inspector, and our building code enforcer. The codes that refer to that, this WUI code that's that we're working on is kind of in flux right now. But I have been told by him that the portions in flux would not affect this issue of this permitting. So the answer to your question is yes, there would be a permit. It would be at no cost. It would be like a hydraulic permit where there'd be a form on the website. You fill the form out. You just have it with you at the time you're discharging, and that would meet the compliance.
Okay, I'll do this right here, and then I'll be right back to you. Councilmember Gassick.
Thank you. I wanted to ask what the current, I think it's a citation for violation of the current fireworks ordinance. Is that at $250 right now? Do we know what the amount is? And is that something that we should modify if we do decide to ban fireworks in the future?
Right. So I'll take this backwards. You wouldn't need to modify it because the way it's written even now is that if you use the fireworks outside the parameters that are allowed, you'd be subject to the liability, right? So now you're just making you subject to liability all of the time. There's no exemption from that liability. Now the liability itself is actually a crime, right? It is technically a simple misdemeanor. I believe the fine is somewhere in that neck of the woods, but theoretically you could do jail time for it. It's okay. Less than a year is what defines the permissible criminal penalty for a simple misdemeanor. I cannot imagine a scenario in which that would happen, but in the actual fine, I do think is right around that amount. I could find out for you though, if you'd like, but it's not. It wouldn't. The penalty would not change. The nature of it being a crime would not change. Just the narrow exemption to allowing it to take place is what would change. Does that answer your question?
That makes sense. I'm thinking maybe we should check with other cities and see what they do for those violations where they have a fireworks ban, just to see if we're, in line with what other cities are doing.
I'll take a look. I believe that it is, and I'm speaking speculative here. I think it is actually set in state law. Right. I think actually the penalty is set somewhere else. I don't know how much control we have over that.
I think you might be right. I'm remembering that now. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I will take a look and I will report back to you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Ballard.
Follow up on the permit requirement for 2024. What's the enforcement mechanism for that if someone does not have a permit?
Sure.
What's the resultant? Falls in line with what Councilmember Gassick asked.
Right.
What is the follow-up to that?
Yeah. So I don't believe that there is a particular penalty necessarily in that code that we're in the process of trying to adopt whenever the Building Code Council finalizes it. I can double check that. However, what I will say is that a failure to have a permit would be a general violation of our code. It's not a criminal matter. So in that case, you would be civilly cited for failing to meet the requirements of the DuPont Municipal Code, which is basically a ticket. And I believe we have almost all the Class 1 citations, which is $250. But no, there would be no criminal liability attached to that. That's an entirely civil matter.
All right. I don't see any other questions from council members. Go back to where we started. To the public, if you want to get questions or comments to the council, please email us. We apologize that Zoom is not working this evening. And also there'll be an opportunity for public comment again at our next meeting right up front. You can use that very first public comment session and address it right there at that point, okay? Or, we're available to meet after this meeting too, okay? But with that shared, we've been through the public comment session, we've been through the clarifying questions, and again, for the public who may be following this issue, it will be on our next agenda again as a second reading. And if you wish to make public comment there, you'll have that opportunity, all right? So now we're going to move to council reports and comments. On February 7th and 8th, council members Beth Elliott, Mamay Basaw, and I attended the Association of Washington City's Action Days. This included an opportunity to get a detailed update on a number of bills being considered in this legislative session. It also provided Councilmember Basaw and I the opportunity to have personal meetings with Representative Levitt, Representative Bernowski, and with Senator Noble's staff. So it was a productive, busy day. Today is a key cutoff day in the legislative session. This cutoff day is where bills have to get out of their House of Origin. That means if it was introduced in the House, it needs to be passed out of the House today. If it was introduced in the Senate, it needs to be passed out of the Senate today. So instead of going down all these bills, I think we'll, as far as my part, I'll rather wait and see what is still alive tomorrow, okay? Because a lot of what's there is not going to be alive anymore. Got Councilmember Bassan. Go ahead.
Yes, so we recently got an update that the business roundtable scheduled for February 26 has been canceled. So we'll have further updates hopefully by next month. So thank you.
Councilmember Elliott.
Yes, just want to let everyone know that our legislators Levitt and Branowski will be here in DuPont on this Saturday at 1 o'clock, be 1 to 2:30 for a listening session. So it's a good opportunity if you haven't talked to your legislators to come talk to them and ask questions.
Councilmember Wong.
Yes, just in addition to February being Black History Month, February 10th started the Lunar New Year as well, and I know that is also celebrated around the globe and locally. So just wanted to add that.
Okay. Are there any other council comments? If not, we will turn to our city administrator. All yours.
Good evening. I wanted to let everyone know the business grants went out today. On Monday. They started Monday, February 12th. They will be open until March 4th at 4 p.m. We've already received some grants from local businesses. We have it on our website at the top when you open the first page, Facebook, Twitter, and Bits and Bytes newsletter, and an email went out. Email, again, we got a lot that came back, so it's, we're not sure who will get them all, but we try to use the business listing we have from the state for that. Upcoming meetings, February 27th, we'll have Public Safety Night and Old Fort Lake update, WUI ordinance, and I'm going to let Mr. Attorney Karg talk on that for a moment.
Yeah, so I don't want to speak too much for our building code expert, Ray, but he and I have had discussions, and so I'm just sort of prepping you for what's going to happen in the next meeting. And he will give you a greater discussion about this. But just so you have a heads up, while there will be an ordinance presented to you, the nature of what the state is asking to do is kind of in flux right now. My understanding is that there are some legislative issues going on that may alter this code, and the building council itself may choose to signal it may want to alter the code. We'll know more on this Friday. Technically, we have a deadline of adopting this by March 15th. I'll just note that there's no penalty for not adopting it by March 15th. It just means that we would have a problem if someone wanted to drop applications with us on that date or right after that date. But Ray will talk to you more, but I'm just warning you now that he and I have been trying to figure out the best way to get this to you in a manner that is meeting the March 15th deadline, but also is the actual code that's going to be adopted, because we're not sure what it is yet. So just be prepared when the first reading of the ordinance comes around. It may be a little more complicated than we had initially thought, and we'll be able to give you more updates. I mean, hopefully by the next meeting, what I'm saying is no longer relevant. Everyone will have figured out their business and we can all move on. But I'm just giving you a heads up now that he and I have been working on the best way to get this to you in an expedited manner that's actually the thing that you need to vote on. So just a heads up.
All right. Thank you.
Director Kincaid, do you have anything you want to add while we're... Okay, no problem. Also, in the February 27th meeting, we'll talk about fireworks again, and hopefully we'll have a surplus resolution for you. And then upcoming March 5th and 6th is the strategic planning sessions to looking at the future for 25 and 26. The first one on the 5th is from 1 to 7 p.m., and on the 6th is from 5 to 9 p.m. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other comments, it is 6:24. I know it was a quick meeting, but an important meeting, and we're going to adjourn.